Friends, there's an attack on our private property, our businesses, ranchers, farmers, rangeland, and it will hurt every single one of us if we don't stand up and fight back right now. Electricity transmission corridors being planned right through precious private property with no actual need will reduce rangeland, reduce cattle, reduce beef and milk, and destroy the ability of multi-generational farming families to do what they do best, to steward our land and bring us quality food we can trust. That hurts our food supply, our wallets, and our national economy. Our farmers are a blessing, and we are losing too many of them every single year. As we've discussed on previous shows, more than 100,000 ranches have disappeared across this country. We've lost 17% of our cattle operations. The U.S. is now at its lowest beef cow inventory since the 1950s. These aren't just numbers. These are families, legacies, and livelihoods built over generations disappearing one by one. And now a massive, unnecessary, and expensive transmission line project right here in Texas is threatening to seize over 70,000 acres of private land, crushing every business, ranch, and farm that it crosses. Lives destroyed, generational operations put out of business forever, never to return. This isn't just a policy debate. This is a foundational American fight. The very philosophers who shaped our founding fathers believed that property rights were not granted by government, but were natural rights tied directly to a person's labor. John Locke, whose writings deeply influenced the framers of our Constitution, taught that when a man works the land, when he pours his sweat, his time, and his life into it, that land becomes an extension of himself. It cannot simply be taken. That principle was built into the bones of this republic. And when we allow government or corporations to run over farming families who have worked and stewarded land for generations, we abandon the very foundation this country was built on. Today I'm sitting down with Ryan and Katie McDowell, a fifth-generation dairy farming family who own and operate Armagh Dairy in Dublin, Texas. Their family has farmed for over 100 years. They have spent years restoring this land, earning organic certification, building their herd, and securing a long-term milk supply agreement that represents their family's future. And now Encore's proposed 765 kV transmission lines could directly cut through their 441 acres, through their pasture land, past their home, within 500 feet of where their 4 children sleep at night. This isn't progress. This is destruction. These transmission lines don't create a single new watt of electricity. They simply move existing, weather-dependent electrons from one place to another at a staggering cost to landowners and ratepayers. They aren't necessary. What we need is reliable generation built close to where it's actually needed. That matters to every one of us because our economy, our wallets, and our freedom depends on a government that protects private and property rights and passes responsible energy policy. So let's dig into it. Katie and Ryan McDowell, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Well, it's a very interesting time. There's always a good fight going on in America, and I'm glad to be with you guys because you are fighting the good fight. I know it for sure. And but I know that what you're fighting for, it's not just for your family. You're fighting for my private property rights. You're fighting for freedom in America. You're fighting for the economy. You're fighting for our national security. So what you're doing is affecting all of us. So I just want to start with thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for hearing our story.
Oh, you're welcome. Let's start. Just tell us a little bit about your property and your family and your creamery so that we understand what's been going on over the generations and kind of what you envision going forward.
Yeah, we moved to this property about 7 years ago. We're originally from Northern California, and we moved to Texas, Central Texas, Erath County, to start our own creamery. So we bought an existing dairy, that some of the property was certified organic, and then since then we've converted it all to organic, and built our own farmstead creamery on the property. So we're making with our cow's milk, we're making organic yogurt and cheese, and then milk as well. So it took us, probably 2 or 3 years in our last 2 or 3 years in California to kind of put that vision together, and we've been going here ever since. And so my family came to the United States in I think 1890, and started milking cows in like Northern California. So we're a little over 100 years in the United States and just in another location now. So
I love it. It sounds like the great American story. You know, people don't risk their lives to come to America for a handout. They come here for a hand
right,
up, for an opportunity. And your family has taken great advantage of that. And you've worked hard to get where you are. I know cattle farmers, I mean, you know, they're up late at night, they're up early in the morning. And when, you know,
yeah,
when the time changes, they said the cows don't care that you've changed the clock. They still want to be milked at the same time. So
correct,
Yep.
and like, you all are
correct.
very hard workers. So let's talk about what's happening with the proposed 765 transmission lines. What would that do to your existing landscape if it were going to go forward as it's existing, as it's planned right now?
I think there's multiple different routes, but if it comes through our place, it'll basically divide our property in two. And we haven't been told yet if you know cattle can walk underneath those transmission lines or people can walk underneath them. Like the power is kind of a little bit up in the air, like if they're safe enough, you know, if they're safe enough. But it's I think the transmission line is going to be pretty much I think about 500 feet from our processing facility, our milking facility, and then equal distant on the other side of the property from our house, and then so and our cows need to actually cross a road to get to pasture, so it'll they'd have to walk underneath it. So we're not exactly sure, but that's kind of the proposed thing. So could be completely you know detrimental to what we're trying to do.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's actually I think it's at least how it's proposed is about probably 300 feet from our front door and then two employee houses as well because it kind
Yeah,
of cuts
closer.
right in the
Yeah,
middle. So it it cuts across the pasture land, but it also is very close proximity to our residents
yeah.
and that of our employees as well. So
Yeah. That's kind of scary because we don't really know
Yeah.
what these 765 transmission lines do as far as, you know, voltage effects on
Right.
people. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
Let's
Yeah,
leave it
animal
there.
health and all that. Exactly. I mean,
right.
and we're in a, you know, we're in a position now where we're, you know, looking to expand our business, you know, significantly. So, it would definitely be detrimental to that.
Hmm. Well, and your dairy isn't just a normal dairy. You are organic,
Mhm.
certified organic, and so I'm sure there are a lot of different loops, like hoops that you have to run through that are, you know, regulatory and legal with extra cost. Tell us a little bit of what that looks like to actually be certified organic.
Yeah. So organic is multifaceted. So it's how we care for the cows. So we we don't give any antibiotics to any cows. And if we do, like if we have animals that we do have to treat for like life saving, you know, instances, we get rid of those animals. And and then the largest in the last maybe 5 or 6 years or 10 years is the organic pasture standard. So we have to graze cattle at least a minimum of 120 days a year, and then they have to get at least 30% of their intake needs from grass over those 120 days. That's not chopped grass. That's you know not silage. That's you know grazing intake. So and in Texas, it's challenging. That's challenging on its own, just because of the weather we have here and stuff. So um, you know, so with these new transmission lines, we could be cutting our property to where we can't graze as much as we have before.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. And also there's, with the organic label, so it's no antibiotics.
yep,
It's also no pesticides or herbicides used on any of the cattle's feed. Um, and also it includes, people don't realize this, it also includes non-GMO standards.
yeah.
So it includes and surpasses those standards. But our pastures cannot be treated with any kind of pesticides or herbicides, and any of the food that we feed them, any hay or grain, cannot have any pesticides.
Oh, they have to
And
be certified organic. So
right,
which that's what that means. Yeah.
yeah, and then we're also not able to give them any hormones that help them to breed back. So really, I mean, some of the hidden costs of organic is that we don't have those, for lack of a better word, sort of cheat codes of like, well, we can,
To produce cheaper milk.
we can
Yeah.
produce cheaper milk because we can, ramp up these inputs, or we can give them hormones so they breed back faster. Like, we have to really, really, be
Kind
careful
of,
herdsmen.
on top of, on
Hmm.
top of our animal
Yeah.
husbandry. Yeah.
Yes. So, and the animals cost more to purchase as well. So there's that investment. And our feed costs are higher, for our supplemental
And we
feed.
don't, I think
Um,
typically, I think in Texas, and I think it's probably true other parts of the country, an organic farm roughly, or an organic cow roughly produces about 65% of a conventional animal.
mhm.
And that cost is like about, I think, 140% of what that milk costs to produce. So we're producing less milk at a higher cost.
Mhm.
Right. Which explains the premium on the
Yeah.
shelf,
Right, right.
why it's more expensive.
But with more quality, and as people listening
Yeah.
today going, oh, okay, now I see like all the extra things that you're doing to make sure that they're healthy and that there's no poison being
Yeah.
injected to them. That's why we pay more money for organic,
Right.
because that's what we want.
Absolutely.
Now
Yeah.
Absolutely.
you said that you can't use pesticides.
Correct.
So when these transmission lines come in, I've been told they can't have any grass or anything underneath them. So
Mhm.
they're going to have to use pesticides in order to spray. I can't think of any other way that they're going to stop
Yeah.
weeds unless you can.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
we're not sure how they're going to apply those,
Mhm.
or if they're going to be, flown on with drones or airplanes or whatever. Because if they're not safe to be under, they're not going to apply with, regular, like, tractors or regular sprayers, right? So, and then we don't know, and with organic as well, like, if we have neighboring property that isn't organic, we have to have buffer zones. So typically it's about, 30 to 60 feet, depending on the property. So we'd have a buffer zone basically on our own property.
Right.
You know what I mean? So we're not really sure how that would work.
In addition to the easement requirement. So
Right.
the easement requirement alone cuts into our acreage, our available acreage, which we essentially need every
Blade of
inch of
grass,
it,
yeah.
every blade of grass. So there's that unknown, as far as we know, they're very large. So, but we don't know exactly what the easements are going to be. And then in addition to that, we know for sure we're going to need the additional buffer zones, if it can even be buffered, because spraying in an open area is very difficult to control with wind and whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Would we
And
have to
then
put up hedges?
yeah. And
What
then
would we have to
technically
do
it's
to
going to be on
buffer?
our property, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
so it's like when we go through our organic certificate, like, the certifier, every year they come out and do an inspection, and it's like a 2-day inspection.
Mhm.
And they look over our maps of our property, and, hey, has any of your neighbors has that land changed hands, or have, because we might have an additional buffer zone. And then they certify our land as like a, whatever the county, like a parcel assessor number is. So it's like, how would that work when it's like it's getting sprayed on our land? We wouldn't be eligible
Right.
for organic at
Yeah.
that point. So it's not like we can be. It's like this is and this isn't. It's kind of like, well, it's all like 2 or 3 parcels, but so it'd be really difficult to get them to approve that.
I really hope that, and I know you're all testifying right now. A lot of people in Texas are testifying about what this is going to do if these lines actually go across their land, and doing their best to make the case that these aren't necessary. And I agree with that. And we'll talk more about that. But even just to let them know, like, what damage the pesticides would do. Like, is anybody even thinking about that on our animals and on your property? Because, like you said, if they just spray it over, you can't do a buffer zone, Katie. You can't do a.
No.
How are you in a buffer zone from it being sprayed in the air and the wind blows and your
Yes.
entire organic certification is gone?
Yes, exactly. And the more we looked into it, the more we learned about what these transmission lines require. We kind of looked at each other and we're like, there goes our entire operation, really. I mean, it's just the proximity. There's no controlling it. There's no usable land at that point for organic. And it takes, so one of the requirements, people don't always know this, is your land has to be cultivated organically for at least 3 years,
Yeah, managed
managed
organically.
organically,
Yeah.
before it can be certified. And there's a process, there's affidavits that need to be signed, all these things. So this land, we've managed it organically for what now? We're
7 years.
almost 7 years. And then prior to us having it, the previous owner had been managing it organically. So we're talking like at least a 15-year investment in keeping this land certified organic and free of pesticides, which it's not. I think, some people that aren't in the industry might say, well, can't you just like go find another farm,
Yeah.
go buy another property. And it's just not that easy. I mean, obviously land is high. The value is high right now, but also it's very, very difficult to find land that's already certified and that has had that management for the amount of time that we need to have it.
Yeah, for 3 years, and that's,
Yeah, let alone with existing dairy facilities. And, we're getting into multi-million dollars here in investment. So,
Yeah.
and time investment.
Right. 15 years to make it organic certified. Yeah. And like, I've heard that question. People, why can't you just pick up and move? They'll just pay you, eminent domain, what they think is
Yeah.
worth, you
Right.
just pick up and move somewhere else. But you can't even put a cost on that, how much money you
No.
put in.
And then with our, with our existing or our, plans for growth, right? I mean, we have a large, multi-year contract that has significant dollar value like attached to it. So it's like I mean, it's yeah, it's gonna be pretty hard to then go ramp up somewhere else when we've we've been making new improvements in our existing facility.
Mm-hmm.
We've remodeled our existing parlor. There's another farm across the road that we're hoping to expand into
Mm-hmm.
as well, and pour tons of money into that.
Another generational
Another generational
dairy,
farm. So
that we would love to preserve, and keep. And this used to be a dairy belt here. They lost, several farmers just got out of the industry. I wouldn't say went out of business, but got out of the industry in like the 90s.
it was like early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
Yeah,
So
90s, yeah.
there's a few of us remaining, but that's been a passion of mine, as we sort of have watched the encroachment, in our hometown of, just farms closing their doors or, closing their gates, if you will, and no longer being farms. And it's something that is so integral to the
Well,
culture here
and
and where
that's
we grew
why
up.
that's why we're here.
Yeah,
We
we're like, we
we
want to preserve it.
we
We want to keep
moved
it
out
going.
here to continue that farming tradition, and like our passion is farming and taking care of animals, and taking
Yeah.
care of property, and we're trying to pass that on to the sixth generation
Mm-hmm.
in the United States. So
Yeah.
yeah, so it's a pretty big gut punch to
Yeah.
try and deal with this now. So
Well, and then I think about, okay, so obviously your family business is going to be out, you're going to be out a lot of money, a lot of contracts.
Yeah.
But even what happens to the small businesses or the large business? I don't know who you have contracts with, but what happens to those businesses that have contracts with you that are expecting that you're going to
yeah,
be delivering this product that they're going to be selling,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
good,
So,
good point.
I mean, we have like two facets here. So, we have invested in the creamery. We have a customer base of, I believe recently it was up to 2,500 members who are purchasing from us direct to consumer. So that's at least 2,500 households like committed on a regular basis
Local
purchasing
Texas
our
families,
products.
right? Not
Um,
like in our community or
yes.
close by.
And then, we also do wholesale to some major retailers in the state. And then with this other facet, with this new bulk milk contract, we're going to be one of a handful of organic producers in the state of Texas. And this buyer is very excited to have somebody, another farm that's local, that's
Yeah.
within a 2-hour distance from their plant in Dallas, where milk can be processed. So, there is an impact on the food system here locally in Texas, and also just the economy.
Yeah. And then they're going to have to go pull milk from other states to process here locally. And that's another thing too. It's like there isn't a lot of organic milk in Texas. I think there's I think there's like 300 dairies in the whole state, and I think but there's some large corporations, but I think there's the family-owned farms. I think there's less than 10.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
so they'd have to be bringing in milk from other states to process in Texas and then distribute in Texas, where they're trying to, grow milk in Texas to be distributed in Texas.
Mhm. Well, and I think about then the revenue that your county gets because of
Yeah.
the sales.
Oh,
That
yeah.
money would be
Yes.
going away.
Yeah.
The money that the
Yes.
state gets because of your sales will be going away. So this hurts
Right.
Texas, this hurts your county, but this ultimately hurts all of America. And because when food supply shrinks, what happens? Prices go up,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
And if
We've
we
seen
aren't
that.
providing that ourselves in America, we're having to look to another country to give that to us. And so
Yeah.
who do you
Yes.
trust to buy your organic certified milk
Right.
from other than America?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially with the perishable product that milk is, right? And
Yeah.
so absolutely. And I mean, you know, most places they try and source their milk, within a few hours of a plant, typically, especially the cost of hauling,
Right.
um,
Well, and think about that's best for the consumer. I mean, do you want a perishable product that has, sat at the dairy, been in a truck for, however many
days.
days? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, close is best
Yeah.
for dairy.
Yeah. Let's just
100%.
talk about the voltage because I know, we're not really sure. I know this is the first 765 kV line going through Texas, as far as I'm concerned. But have you heard anything about any lawsuits or anything that anyone has brought up about what these high voltage lines do to cattle and do to the milk?
Yeah. So I don't know. Again, I think there's a lot of unknowns, and in fact, that was something. I think there was
We looked into that.
some requests for information from Encore. One, how large are the easements? The other one was how much voltage is actually going to be going through the lines. And as far as I know, unless there has been a more recent response, those were question marks. Those were we don't know answers.
And it was like we
and
don't
so-
know until they're up.
Yes,
So,
and so
that's
I'm sure easements they could probably give us a little more on that. But as far as like the voltage, that's just this question mark. We know it's higher than any transmission line that or power line that we have seen in our vicinity. And so I looked up, what are some case laws or precedent of lawsuits related to any kind of power line, let alone a high voltage power line. And there were several that came up as far as the impact on dairies. Dairies were compensated for, higher mortality rate among their cattle, stray voltage, injuries to cattle and employees. And then one of the significant ones for dairy is loss of production, that there was a noticeable decrease in milk production due to the voltage and the stress on the cows and whatnot. So significant enough that a judge ruled on it,
and it was a
multi-million,
multi-million
$4.75 million in compensation. That was that significant of a loss in income to the dairy. So it's not unheard of. I know people want to debate the effects of EMFs, but these are measurable impacts on existing dairies at a lower voltage than what we're talking about here. So again, it's another one of these, like, we have no idea the full impact, but even our most modest estimates show that we would not be able to function as an existing organic dairy. We would no longer be able to carry on business as usual.
Yeah, I mean, like we talked about before, it's like organic milk, it costs more and you make less of it.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of so it's like when you're making less of something that costs more, it like doesn't make it, financially viable at that point. So.
Yeah. And if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah. And to that
yeah,
point,
you're
I
right.
another startling statistic, if you will, is that just in the last 20 years, our dairies in general, not just organic, but our dairies have been reduced by 65%. That doesn't necessarily mean there's less milk out there,
Or less cattle.
but there are 65% less farms. And so what that tells you is it's becoming, these smaller farms are going out of business, and they're just, getting absorbed into large corporate farms.
Yeah.
Which
And
I
some
know
large
as a
family,
consumer,
and some large family farms.
and some large, yes, some large family farms, but I know consumers are, weary of that. Like we don't want it to go to corporations. We love the idea of family farms. And why is that? Because there's the generational legacy and passion for it, and that wisdom that is passed down when your grandfather, great grandfather have done this for years. And again, these are all sort of just the cost of losing those is, you can't even measure it in dollars at that point. It's a lot. It's a loss that is greater than money.
Yeah, like what kind of back to what you were saying about, on your intro, like, I mean, the own personal property rights, and then that continues with the next generation. So it's like,
Yes.
well, what are we continuing on? Like, we might not be. So,
Right. Yeah. Right. This is our children's inheritance.
Right.
This is what we've invested in.
Yeah. And we made a choice to do that, and trying to, pass on a viable business to our kids, if they choose to do it or not, they're going to have the opportunity. And that's kind of what most family farms, I mean, at least we want our kids to have the opportunity that we had.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So
we do too. We want everybody in America to have that opportunity.
Right.
We've got to stop big government and big corporations from encroaching.
Yeah.
So what would be your last words? If PUC is listening right now, if the judges are listening, anybody that can make a decision here, do your quick last words and make your case, and let's save your ranch, your farm, and let's save all of the small businesses in Texas.
I think there's smarter ways to accomplish the same goal of what they're trying to accomplish.
Absolutely.
Building power sources closer to where the power's needed, and not span, a huge, transmission line that no one is, I mean, it's unprecedented in our state up to this point, and not know the risks of that, not know, what the long-term outcome is going to be of that. I think there's a lot better solutions on the table versus doing that and spending the dollars that they're planning on spending, and with no risk to Encore or any of the subcontractors. The risk is all going to be on the landowners,
And
for
the ratepayers
yeah,
as well.
and the ratepayers as well. We're paying for this.
Mm-hmm.
It's, and Encore is going to get their, if this goes, which I don't think it will, Encore is going to, it's not going to, the cost isn't going to be on their back.
Right.
So,
right. Which is why we need to make the case to the people who have the decision-making ability here in Texas. So where can everybody go to see your farm, see your milk, your cheese,
processing
your yogurt, all
facility,
your processes, and to support your business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We're located in Dublin, Texas, just outside of Stephenville. And then our website is armaghcreamery.com, and that's ARMAGH Creamery. And Armagh it's difficult to pronounce for some folks, but it's named after the county in Ireland where Ryan's family is originally from, and where his cousin still dairies today. So, and we're in Dublin, Texas. So we had to give a nod to the homeland. Right. But we'd love to hear from local consumers, and
And our products are at HEB too. Our yogurt's at HEB.
Yes.
Our
select
cheese,
HEBs.
Select, yeah. And then then we have some cheese and some local cheese shops as well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Okay. Well, we're all going to go buy Armagh Creamery cheese and yogurts and milk right now. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. Keep up the good fight, and we want to hear how it goes. Know that we're rooting for you.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What you just heard should give every Texan, every American pause. Ryan and Katie McDowell are not asking for special treatment. They're asking for what every property owner in this great country deserves: the right to pursue happiness, keep what they built, protect what they invested in, and pass it on to the next generation. They have 9 water wells on that property, 3 homes, including employee housing for the families who work alongside them. They have 441 acres of certified organic pasture land they've spent years restoring. They have a long-term milk supply agreement they are actively working to fulfill. And they have 4 children they are raising to carry on a farming legacy that spans 5 generations and over a century. All of that, all of it, is at risk because of a transmission line that does not need to go where they're trying to put it. And here's the hard truth. This isn't just about one dairy farm. This is a pattern across Texas and across this country. When infrastructure decisions are made without fully accounting for the real-world human cost, it's families like Ryan and Katie's who pay the price first. But eventually, we all do. We pay through higher electric bills, higher food prices. We pay through the loss of local food producers that we depend on. We pay when private property rights are pushed aside for projects that don't even deliver the reliability that were promised. And as we've said before, Texas is energy rich. We have the resources to build reliable, affordable power close to where it's needed. The question is whether we're going to demand that our leaders choose solutions that actively strengthen our grid and protect our people, or whether we're going to keep watching families get crushed under the weight of expensive, long-distance workarounds that benefit a few at the expense of many. Once land is taken, it's gone. Once a farm is disrupted, it may never come back. Once costs are locked in, ratepayers carry them for decades. There is no undo button. So I'm asking you to share this interview because the people making these decisions are paying attention to who's watching. And right now, they're counting on you not paying attention. Our farmers feed us. They steward our land. They are the backbone of this country, and they deserve a government and a people willing to fight for them. Thank you for joining me. The future of Texas energy, agriculture, and freedom is too important to hand over without a fight. God bless you, and God bless Texas.